We're going in 3, 2, 1.
Werewolf for mitzvah, spooky, scary. Boys becoming men, men becoming wolves. Ooh, werewolves of London.
Hey everyone, it's Thursday, November 16th, right? Yes, it's 16th. My name is Bobby Frankenberger, and you're listening to episode 30 of the Sixth World Podcast. The executive producer for today's episode is James O'Neill. Thank you, sir, for supporting the show, and as always, I am joined by Cassie Levitt, my amazing co-host. How's it going, Cassie?
What's up, Bobby?
Not a lot. Today has been a crazy day. Children have been running amok, but I think I'm recovering slowly so that we can have the wonderful episode that I'm sure we're bound to have with our lovely chat room and, of course, our guest today, who is Shadowrun freelancer and head of the Shadowrun errata team. Patrick Goodman is in the studio with us. How's it going, Patrick?
It is going just fine, Bobby.
I am glad to hear it. We're going to be talking about shapeshifters today for the main part of the show. I'm pretty stoked about that. Cassie, I know, has been wanting to talk about this for a little while, and we had to postpone the episode at one point because I don't remember why. I think it was because we wanted Jason Hardy. You know, Jason Hardy forced himself onto the show. And
He's pushy like that.
Yeah, no, I think we're like, hey, let's get Jason on. Anyway, we postponed it, and we're glad we're finally here. Cassie, you excited about Shapeshifters?
Oh yeah,
You've got what? You cut out, or you stopped talking?
I've got lots to say. Did you cram read? Are you ready?
I am. I had to cram worse this time than normal because we had family in town this weekend, which is normally when I cram, and we had family in town this weekend, so it was fun, but I learned some things, some fun stuff. But let's just do this thing here that I always do. So I would normally say, hey, let's mention our new patrons at this point in the show, but Patreon currently is down for scheduled maintenance. So that's not happening right now.
Likely story.
That's all right, likely story. So if you did become a patron of ours since our last episode, we'll get you next time, I promise. I did not get it in time. But have you guys ever had a Bojangles fried turkey? Do you know that they do that? Do you guys have Bojangles?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know what a Bojangles is, so no.
We do not, but I have had deep fried turkey. I have a brother who likes fire.
Okay. Sometimes I'm reminded that fast food places that seem to be ubiquitous may actually be regional. Bojangles is like a fried chicken place that is all like Southern flair. You know, it's good. Do you guys have Popeye's chicken?
We do have Popeyes.
Okay, it's similar to that, but has a distinctly 70s feel to it. It could be a theme, but it's probably just that it's outdated. But they do a fried chicken or a fried turkey around Thanksgiving every year. You can go and get these. I've always heard about them, and I thought, man, that's a really cool thing. And my wife, for her work, she was trying to put together like a Thanksgiving potluck thing, and so she's like, oh, well, I want to bring I'm responsible for bringing the meat. What should I do? And so she said, I'm going to do this Bojangles fried turkey thing, right? So I'm thinking, okay, this is what we thought. We thought you go to Bojangles, the restaurant, the fast food restaurant, and you order the fried turkey ahead of time, and they have it ready because you're supposed to order it ahead of time, right? So we thought they're going to have it ready for you, right? They're going to, that you'd go there, you'd say, hey, I'm here to pick up, like if you were going to like a sandwich place that was trying to make a sandwich platter for you, right? You go to those places, and they've got the sandwich platter ready for you. You take it to your party and you eat it, right? You following me? So
So far.
Yeah.
so that's what we thought you'd do. You go to, so she ordered it. She was gonna pick it up. She had to go to the dentist, and then she was gonna on the way after the dentist was gonna go by the Bojangles, pick up the fried turkey, and then take it to this work potluck, and then they were gonna eat it and enjoy it, right? So she runs up and she's kind of in a hurry because the dentist took a little bit longer. She goes and she says, "Hey, I ordered this thing." They put it in a bag for her, hand her the bag, she pays for it, and she runs off. And when she gets to the car, she opens up the bag and she realizes this turkey, first of all, is really cold. Okay? And then second of all, it's in this like shrink wrapped packaging with like with like, you know,
I see where this is going.
it's in like a shrink
Sadly, I see where this is going.
it's in a shrink wrapped packaging, and the packaging, because I saw it, she brought it home. The packaging looks like there's a turkey in there, but it's kind of like maybe surrounded by a quarter inch of like orange slime. Okay, like it's inside this, and on there's a label on there that has instructions, right? So it says on there. It says on the thing, the label says fried turkey, ready to eat. Okay? But then underneath it says cooking instructions. And then it has all these instructions. So she's like, you know, it's this like nasty, sloppy, kind of soggy turkey that is surrounded by orange slime, kind of like that orange slime. You ever had like the SpaghettiOs? You open it up and it's noodles inside that like alien slime that nobody really knows what it's made out of. Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Surrounded like the turkey was rubbed in that and then shrink wrapped. So apparently what they do is they take the turkey at Bojangles world headquarters, I guess. They take the turkey, they get it in. It's like a 13-pound turkey. They get this turkey in, and they bake it a bunch, or they roast it, and then they take it, and then they drop it in a deep fryer for color, I guess. And then after that, they take it out. Then they wrapped in plastic, right? They wrap it in plastic, and then they flash freeze it. And then they send it to the store. And then when you order Bojangles fried turkey, this is what you're ordering. You're saying, when you say, "Hey, I want a fried turkey. I'm going to pick it up at 10:30 on, Thursday." What you're telling Bojangles is, when you get on Thursday morning, make sure you take this turkey out and thaw it. Or I guess it probably was the night before. So all they're doing for you is thawing this turkey out, and it's still your responsibility to cook it. I'm outraged.
Yes. I don't blame you. See, this is why you get members of your family who have their own turkey fryers.
Yeah, well, our family, yes, this Thanksgiving I will be having home fried turkey in the most dangerous way possible. Eric DeMage in the chat room says, "See, that's why I don't like turkey much anymore." Eric, it's not turkey's fault that Bojangles does this. Like, that's not a reason to not like turkey anymore. Turkey is delicious. And in fact, when we did cook it, it took like 2 hours. When we did cook it, it was delicious turkey. I actually probably will buy it again. It's just this time I know.
Just forewarned now.
Yeah, it's just this time I know. I know what I'm getting into. That's all. Have you guys had pre-Thanksgiving turkey like I have?
No, never.
No, not right now.
Not right now. So is there pre-Thanksgiving turkey in your future?
We anticipate I come from a large family. I have 4 brothers and a sister. We'd all, spend the holiday at our in-laws' house, and then on the weekend after the holiday, we'll converge on my mom's house. This process has been disrupted this year because my mother-in-law moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I ain't making the drive. I'm not making that drive again. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. As I said before, I have to play this. I'm recovering from children today at dinner time. This is just a little sampling. I caught some audio of what I had to go through for basically 30 straight minutes today. Here we go, Rise. Get ready. That's my wife. She's lost it. Lost her mind, and she's laughing because she doesn't know what else to do.
All right. I'm gonna go grab my
What
bottle
did they
of
get
wine
into, Bob?
and go be an adult. You guys enjoy the rest of this podcast.
Yeah. It's moments like that when I also want to grab a bottle of wine and walk out the door and never come back.
This is your own fault. You shouldn't be breeding and not doing it twice if you want to avoid those conversations.
I wish. See, if only.
It doesn't work that way, Cassie. The whole concept of family planning, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree. I have family planned like a pro. I have 0 small children, and I get to hang out with my dog and eat chicken and drink wine and have chocolate for dinner.
Yeah. Well, I did have the amazing, wonderful experience of sharing the original NES Zelda with my 4.5-year-old this afternoon, and she loved it and was playing through it, and it warmed my heart. And it's I guess it's those moments that makes it. I don't know if I'll go that far. It doesn't might not make it all worth it. I'll let you know in about 10 or 15 more years. But let's do this part of the show. Am I right?
World News Today.
It was loud that time. We don't have a lot of news to talk about today. So what we're going to do instead is tell you that the one piece of news is, we mentioned it last time, we finally hit $100 a month on our Patreon. That's a milestone that we were hoping for. Once we got there, we said we were going to start experimenting with taking live calls on the show. Not going to do it this episode. Don't worry, Patrick. You don't get to be the guinea pig. Somebody else does. And we're going to do it we're going to do it on the next episode, but I wanted to make sure our listeners, live and on the podcast, that you guys get an opportunity. Maybe if you don't listen to it live, you want to show up and get a chance to call in. I think we're going to start with trying to take just one call, and we'll see how that goes. But the way we're going to do that, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to tell people ahead of time, the way we're going to do that is through the Discord server that we have, the Shadowcasters Network Discord server. If you were around when we did this past summer our 36-hour streamathon, we took some calls there, and so you may have experienced how we handled it there, and we're going to try to duplicate or recreate that. So if you are a member of the Shadowcasters Network Discord, awesome, you are a leg up. If you're not, but you want to try to maybe join in on episodes that we do live, then what you're going to want to do is go to there. It's easy to find. Go to shadowcasters.network/discord, and there's a big picture on the screen. Just click on it, and it'll hook you up with an invite to the Discord server for the Shadowcasters Network. On there, all you got to do is when we're doing the show, all you got to do is go into. There's going to be. I'm looking now. I think we got rid of it after the thing, but there will be a room called a call waiting room, and all you got to do is join that chat channel. It'll be a voice chat channel, the call waiting room, and what we will do is whenever we want someone, whoever's in the call waiting room, we will just grab somebody and pull them over into the live thing and then start talking to you, and it'll be abrupt and all of a sudden, and it might scare you, but I hope it won't. And we're gonna take questions. We're gonna do it during the Q&A part of the show, which is coming up in a second. And it'll be an opportunity for people to ask us a live question. Now, last thing I'll say before we move on to the Q&A is the types of questions that we're looking for live, like calling in people, are not like rules questions. Okay, those are the types of things we like to be able to get those in ahead of time so that we have an opportunity to research a really good answer for you. Cassie always has awesome answers, and as much as she does know the rules really well, it's also she has even better answers because she has time to look it up. She's shaking her head. I'm trying to talk you up, Cassie. You're supposed to just agree.
I don't know the rules. I don't know the rules at all. I don't understand how this game works.
Rules.
But she takes
There are
plenty of
rules?
time. Yeah, there are rules. I think you wrote maybe one or two of them.
Yeah, probably allowed 700 pages of rules, if not more.
So
Yeah.
she
again.
likes being able to look those up. We like being able to have researched answers. So the types of questions we're looking for that are more like subjective or advice type questions, or hey, my players are doing this, or what do you guys think about this? That kind of stuff. So looking forward to trying it. Caveat emptor, I think that's the right Latin word, is that we, if this goes badly, we are not going to do it anymore. So this is an experiment is what I'm saying. So if it goes well, then awesome. If not, then
what's your sense of adventure?
yeah, this is quite adventurous, trust me. There's a lot that could go wrong. Yeah, so that's that. That's all for the news, really. How about some of this? All right, it's the Q&A portion of the show. Every episode we like to do questions, take questions, and answer them. And we primarily get those through the website, sixthworldpodcast.com. We've got a form on there you can fill out to ask us a question. It's really simple, right on the main page. You can also send them to our email, theshow@sixthworldpodcast.com. Or if you feel so inclined and it's short enough, you can send it, you can tweet at us. I guess you could do 280 characters now and not just 140. So maybe we'll get more tweets with questions. Crap, that means I'm going to have to start looking more at our Twitter account. Anyway, that's...
I didn't
You
even
did
know
that
that
to
was
yourself,
a thing.
man.
But that explains why I just tweeted a minute ago, and I'm like, man, it seems like I can do a really long one now.
Yes, everybody has 280 characters now, and the Twitterverse simultaneously rejoiced
gas.
and raged. So, as the internet does. Anyway, our Twitter is @6worldpodcast, and our patrons, their questions get priority for being answered. So if you'd like that, then consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/sixthworldpodcast. Anyway, enough with the preamble. Let's jump right into the questions. First question is from Ross D'Souza, who asks, it's a kind of a two-part question, but they both lead in kind of, I feel like, are part of the same thing. So here we go. The rule books are generally centered around the American continent, and hence and hence also the stats are focused with that in mind. Would you change or tweak anything if you were basing a campaign in a different place? What areas would you consider and think about? Follow-up thing that I thought was right in line with this is he also said, I was wondering on your opinions as I've just started running a game based around the London Sprawl and Cambridge. And they're all British, apparently. And he said, we decided to tweak the weapon availability ratings as weapons in the UK are currently pretty much illegal. And we wanted to continue this feeling through the Sixth World. So we've bumped up non-restricted availability up to restricted. And restricted were bumped up to forbidden. And with some caveats, some exceptions. And of course, this applies to nationally run areas and blah, blah, blah. Says also it's not like it's just a buds, correct? Yeah, anyway. So that was, I thought, something he was already doing that I thought was actually, a really good change that had to do with a specific area, not Seattle. But anyway, Cassie, what are your thoughts about running games in other places and having to change the rules because of it?
You're a GM. Change whatever you want. It's the power of the GM. But my first campaign I did was in London, and I did much the same thing. I didn't really change the availability or the stats of anything, but I made it much harder for them to get, right? They had to go through a whole process to get an armed contact. He only had certain items for them.
Sure.
They were always running around with like APDS, and suddenly they couldn't get that ammo. Forbidden ammo was just impossible to get, basically. And it was fun because we'd been playing for so long with all the Seattle rule set and kind of the standard stuff that suddenly they had a reason to need unarmed and clubs and even just use small arms or holdouts that are harder to see. I definitely recently did a one-shot in Japan, and very similar. I didn't take anybody who only had firearm skills, right? I only played with people who had unarmed and other skills, so they didn't have to, worry about too much of that stuff. And even we did another run in Australia, where we had the guy who has like a cyber implant. We had to smuggle him in because it's very odd in Australia to have a lot of wear and things like that, and they stand out more. So yeah, change the rules. It's what they're there for.
They're there for.
Yeah.
Rules are
Absolutely.
made to be broken.
Yeah, and I mean, all the core stuff is set in Seattle kind of as a base, but there's plenty of material if you want flavor and changes of things. You know, when we did our London campaign, I used the first edition London source book and based a lot of it in that, even though we played the 5th rule set. So there's a lot of campaign settings you can pull from for that kind of information.
Yeah, I mean, I think it actually says in the rules, hey, this is Seattle. If you're playing somewhere else, in the year rules especially, yes, things will change.
I think a lot of that makes sense with gear. That's to me the most obvious area with which you might adjust things depending on the location. I feel like there's so many rules set. There's so many different rules and subsystems that cover so many different things that there's probably, like, whatever unique thing about an area that you're going to, there's probably a rule out there that you can at least emphasize. If you're going to be playing in the outback of Australia, maybe you need to really, read up on the like survival and exposure or whatever it's called, fatigue rules, environmental fatigue and stuff.
Definitely. We even had a GM who used a kind of adapted, I think it's the 3rd edition way mana storms and stuff were done because of how crazy mana is in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
So you can always adopt rules for things, and if it's more of just like players, say ghouls are illegal here or there, which is common even in Seattle, right? Ghouls cannot walk around as a UCAS citizen. Make sure they have a disguise check or physical mask or some way of handling that. You can easily roll that up beforehand.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of viewing rules. A lot of people look at like setting and fluff and think about it in somehow in some sort of oppositional relationship with the crunch and the rules. But I'm the kind of person who really thinks that the rules, that they work together. One of them informs the other or emphasizes the other. So if you're in an area and you want to play up a certain aspect of that setting, then either emphasize a certain rule set that'll do that or tweak it to make it like more out front.
Absolutely.
So hope that answers your question, Ross. Next question is from John Schleiber, who asks, in one of my groups, I have a player who's very opposed to the whole direction of the meta plot of Shadowrun that's been taking. This player is a transplanted Cyberpunk 2020 player and only plays technological-based characters, deckers, riggers, and the like. He doesn't want anything to do with the magic personally, and he's very unhappy that Shadowrun seems to push the magic angle of the meta plot. He'd like to see a return to more technology-oriented meta plot elements, but he's losing hope of that happening. I'm wondering if any of you have played with characters like this who are recalcitrant to accepting the mix of elements in the game to the point of stubbornness, and how you'd work to either change their minds on the concept or at least work their objections into your runs. What do you think, Patrick? What's your take on that?
Oh, no, my first instinct is to say, here's Jason's email address. Write him a proposal.
Write him a
Because
proposal.
if you don't like the way the meta plot is going, write a proposal. Pitch a more technology based
Sure.
idea. Because we're nothing without the ideas we come up with as writers. But I mean, I can kind of see his point. Unfortunately, I've kind of been responsible for part of it with my work with the infected and stuff. But
Right.
I understand his point.
Yeah.
And it's harder to advance the tech than we'd like without going into Star Trek weapons and things like that, because when they're talking tech, what most of them are wanting is they want more guns. They want bigger guns that, and there's only so many things you can do with a bullet before all the stats start looking the same.
Right.
I'd refer you to the core. I have played with characters that have not liked the magic, and to an extent, I think they're missing out. To another extent, I think as a GM running the game, you kind of have to, you should try to work with all your players.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like, and Cassie, I know you, in a different way, kind of agree with me on this answer. But first of all, well, Cassie, why don't you go first? I know you agree that maybe you shouldn't be trying to change someone's mind.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying his opinion's wrong. It's actually shared with a lot of people. A lot of people who like more of that cyberpunk really would want the direction of the metaplot to be a little different. As far as, I send Jason an email, voice your comment with the other people. Maybe it'll shift at some point. As far as it sounds almost in this question that he's becoming a little bit disruptive with the game. That goes back to that whole session 0 and discussing the expectations and if everyone else in the group is on board and no one really wants to play a magic character, there's no reason you need to do anything related to magic and Shadowrun. You can go to space even and completely ignore it.
Yeah, that's very, very true. It's not hard to play a Shadowrun game without magic. I mean, really, if you think about it, the setting is described that magic really isn't that common. But aside from that, I 100% agree with Cassie about not changing people's minds. People have their opinions in the games that they want to play in their mind and everything, and I don't like lately what I've been seeing. Well, I don't like that attitude of how that we should be manipulating our players or tricking them into this or trying to change their minds so to force them into the game that we all think that they should be playing. Don't. Work with them, talk to them, and try to figure out what game you can be playing. And also, guys, it's possible that the game you should be playing isn't Shadowrun.
That was kind of why I saw, right? You came from a cyberpunk game, you go back to that. I guess.
If that's what you want, then why not play that? I know that we all love the Shadowrun setting in the world, but I don't know.
But even then, I said,
one of the things that we have talked about in the past is I don't know where this is. I don't know what happened to it. But at one point, I've been working with this game since '99, so I can't remember exactly when this conversation came up. But someone was saying, "What you've got the Fauvier in Azatlan. Mm-hmm. What if something like that hit an entire city and stuck?"
Yeah, that sounds fascinating to me.
What if they're and we've kicked it around before. I don't know where it is. I need to talk to the guys and see where we're going. But a city where there isn't any magic, no worky here, and so you have a city. You got Seattle, obviously, but you have a city, Detroit or St. Louis or wherever they had talked about doing it. Where there's no magic, you can have a straight, a much more straight cyberpunk setting that still has the meta plot, and you still might wind up going somewhere with magic users or death, but it's a much more technological feel. And I now that we've brought it back up, I kind of need to go to Jason and kick that one around and see where that is. If we ever decide to do it. Because I honestly don't remember. It's been years since the topic was brought up, and it wasn't until so wait a second, we talked about that once.
Well, you can still do it here, right? The cast is not a big fan of magic, so you'd imagine even there, if there are magic users, they're probably not openly using it as much. Whole Middle East in that area for a long time, Egypt and stuff, magic was illegal, right? It's another location you can go to. Hell, play Matrix characters. No magic in the Matrix.
No kidding.
There's definitely plenty of locations in the setting. For this question in particular, I would be curious to see who else is at the table. So if there's, if this person wants to be an adept and this person wants to be a ritual mage and this person's a conjurer, then you may be in the wrong group or maybe the wrong game. That's a session
there may
conversation.
There may be a quality control issue with your choice making.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I played that London game I talked about, I had 4 street Sams. So we, they had magic a little bit they encountered, but it was like the opposition or the bad guy, and they shot it, and but for the most part, we didn't play with magic almost at all on a regular basis in that game.
Yeah, it's certainly possible if everyone else in the group is down with having a magic-free campaign, you can certainly craft that in Shadowrun if that's what you want. Mm-hmm. So give that a shot, and if not, maybe Cyberpunk 2020 is the game for your group. Doesn't have to be Shadowrun. We love Shadowrun here, but we love all sorts of games, right? So, yeah. Let's, anyway, let us know, John Schleiber, if that helps you and how your group's doing. I'd like to hear back from you at some point to know if your friend there is enjoying Shadowrun anymore or if you've gone some other way. But for now... It's time for the main topic of the show. We're talking about shapeshifters today.
Speaking of magic.
Right. So yeah, we're talking about shapeshifters. So this is going to be fun. I didn't know a lot about shapeshifters in Shadowrun. I'd played with one time, actually on the Emerald Grid. Played at least a session or two with a shapeshifter there, but I think as I learned about him for this show, I got some hindsight on how that player was role playing their character, and it was just interesting.
Was it Polly the parrot?
No, it was what's his I can't remember anybody's names. I do a really bad job. Anyway, it was nobody listening cares. So I won't sit here and try to remember because I will do a bad job trying to remember.
I know it was Polly the parrot because it's the only shapeshifter we've had. We have a parrot and a naga.
Oh, well then it must have been.
Okay.
So before we get into it, let's talk about what are shapeshifters in Shadowrun. First of all, one interesting thing about shapeshifters in Shadowrun that might be different than others is that shapeshifters are not metahumans that shift into animal form. They're actually the opposite, which is really interesting. They are animals that have the ability to shift into metahuman form. And that makes all the difference, right? Because it affects how they perceive the world and how they approach the world and what types of knowledge or perceptions they have and how they filter everything that they encounter in metahuman society, right? They have that animal instinct first, and they're. It made me think a lot about It made me think a lot, and bear with me with this analogy, but it made me think a lot about CFD infected people, like when they're navigating the world and trying to figure out how to be a part of it because they have no idea what they're doing here. Because they were just AIs that got thrown into meat bodies, and now they're having to learn how to interact with people that are parts of societies. And that's kind of how...
You have to figure out pizza, Bobby.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit more difficulty there, but it did make me think about that because it's like animals that are metahumans, that are shifting into metahuman form and are trying to become a part of and in most cases blend in with society, because people don't really take to shapeshifters too well. There's some weird feelings that people have about them.
They don't blend.
Well, I wonder why.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? You wonder why?
Well, so in certain urban areas, some of the predator shapeshifters will still eat people.
Fair enough.
It's even part of Evo's pact. Evo said that any sapient creature can have a sin, but you have to respect other people's life.
It's part of the rules, right?
For the shapeshifters, right? So the shapeshifters wouldn't eat their citizens.
Yeah, right. You can have a sin, but you gotta promise not to steal people's babies or something like that, like not to
You can't eat the coworker in the cubicle next to you.
Yeah, if you're hungry,
how annoying they are.
Bring a pack of peanuts or something. Grab a Snickers and curb that hunger. But yeah, no, it's a good point because I learned about there's a place. Speaking of Evo, Evo has I feel like a weird relationship with shapeshifters because of Yakut, which is right near Vladivostok, which is Evo's hometown. But Yakut is this place. It was formerly under Russian rule, and they decided that they wanted to not be under Russian rule anymore, and so this free spirit. What's her name? Vernya, and she had a bunch of shapeshifter followers, and she decided to fight for them and help them become free. But she, of course, had maybe ulterior motives, and they went from being under the iron fist of Russian rule to the not exactly comfortable rule of a cast of people that was ruled by shapeshifters and this free spirit. The regular metahumans became second-class citizens, and shapeshifters rule the day, right? So there's been this like rebellion and everything, and shapeshifters have attacked people in Vladivostok, and Vladivostok is like terrified of animals. I think, didn't it say that in there that they like when animals wander into Vladivostok, they just like shoot them all because they're afraid of shapeshifters.
Just to send a message. Yeah, they also do normal border raids, I believe, over the border.
Yeah.
Which actually then causes more problems for the humans, the metahumans that are there, because the shifters start doing like purges or spying to see like if anyone is a traitor or giving info and whatnot. So it's all very Russian.
That must be scary to think about. Secret animals spying on you.
Well,
yeah.
So we'll get more into that in a minute, because Amazonia actually does use them as spies.
That's true. I want to get a couple of the facts about shapeshifters out of the way real fast, which is they're very rare in the world. The estimated population is only 200,000 worldwide. So very rare. I mean, we talk about how magic is supposed to be rare, but shapeshifters are really rare.
And every one of them is in Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, I didn't mean to say that out loud. I'm so sorry.
Whatever you mean.
That was wrong of me.
They have an unknown lifespan. Apparently, it used to be believed that they had about the lifespan of an orc, but it's been found that really it's nobody really knows how long their lifespan is. It's at least as long as the base animal, but probably longer than that.
It's definitely noted in the 4th edition Running Wild that they grow faster. They actually age and mature much faster, more like the actual native animal.
Oh, I missed that part. That's interesting.
Yeah. They become adults much quicker. What that does to their lifespan, as you've noted, no one's really sure, but
yeah, there's no real like known shapeshifter cultural bonding or anything, right? Maybe like very small communities that might have popped up, like maybe in Yakut or Amazonia, but
yeah.
I mean, there's so few of them.
Sometimes wolf or lion ones will still kind of bond together, but it's rare, and I wouldn't say they have a culture per se. It's more of just carrying on their non-shifter instincts.
Unless there's something specific going on, like Alfred Gagnon's Vladivostok Gauntlet, his piece of short fiction. There's a lot of shifters in that one.
Yeah,
and they're working together.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does happen, but as far as general culture, no, not really.
Yeah, they'll definitely work together or serve a purpose, because they're big in Amazonia too, right? But they're not like ghouls pushing for like the shifter liberation or anything like that. It's like,
no. That's why there's not a shifter liberation front.
Yeah.
That's what Yakut was, right? No, they weren't like liberating shifters. They were just like, hey, if we help these people out, we can become their leaders. We're sneaky. So you keep mentioning Amazonia. So tell us about Amazonia, Cassie, and what that has to do with shapeshifters.
Oh, Amazonia is full of wild critters, and shifters is a prominent one amongst them. They actually serve in Amazonia's intelligence department in the Department of Intelligence and Security of Amazonia.
Ooh,
Amazonia,
interesting.
and so they are quite often used as operatives there, and will
Oh, because they can be
They're
like
total spooks.
they can be animals and they can sneak around like panthers
They
in the
can be-
jungle.
Yeah, so the Panther one I think is
Exactly like
definitely
Panthers.
it's definitely set it out in Metropolis. I believe they are Panther shifters that are noted for the despise. So yeah, they're big there. They obviously fought in like the Atsam War. They were a big contribution in that as well.
So everybody in Amazonia probably are suspicious of animals in the jungle. I would be. I'm paranoid.
Well,
Only
I mean,
if you have common sense. There are wild animals in the jungle, whether they turn into people or not.
That's a fair point. That's a
Yeah.
fair point. You should
Let's
probably
say-
be suspicious of wild jungle animals in general.
in Amazonia, dragons have the right of way over plains.
That's fair.
Big
And it's
difference
also
there.
Amazonia. You're right. You should probably be afraid of like
Oh.
the trees and plants too.
But I thought a really important note of the dis is that the Department of Intelligence for Amazonia is that there are only awakened critters there. So shifters being a big part of it, but also Draco forms and who are the dragon people?
The dragon
I don't
people.
know.
That's what I call them.
Drakes. Thank you, Drakes. I don't know why I suddenly forgot the word Drakes. Yeah, so
You even
Drakes,
said
Draco
Draco
forms,
form. So-
I know Draco form and shifters make up their entire intelligence division. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, but Patrick, it's not all.
Yes.
We're talking about great places that love shapeshifters, but then the rest of the world, it's not all fun and games for shapeshifters, is it?
Not even a little bit. No.
What places? Some places recognize them as people and will issue them sins, but a lot of places there's bounties for them, aren't there?
Indeed, there are bounties in the cast. There are technically bounties in UCAS. A lot of your European nations.
The
Do they hunt them in Quebec? Is that like one of the bounty things for Quebec, which I know is all about critter hunting?
I'm pretty sure that Quebec has a bounty on shifters because they have a bounty on them just about everything else. So
We could assume yes.
why change?
Yeah, absolutely. What it was either Howling Shadows or Run Faster had some fiction in it about a shapeshifter, a bounty, someone who hunted shapeshifters. Was that in Howling Shadows?
I want to say that was in Howling Shadows. Yeah.
It was a really interesting
Don't
story.
think-
I
I
liked
don't
it.
I don't think that one was in Run Faster, but I don't have my book handy, so.
Yeah, it was neat. He was.
I fail as a prepared guest.
That's right. It was a very random and specific question I had just now. It was a neat story about just someone who was, I guess, had It was by the way, it was in Run Faster. I just pulled it out. It's beginning of More Than Skin Deep. And it wasn't one of the longer fictions in the black pages. It was just like the one page thing at the beginning of the chapter. But it was neat. This guy who was you find out at the end of the story, spoiler, that he was a bounty hunter for I guess shapeshifters. But he was walking through a parking garage, and I think a tiger shifter wasn't too happy with him and tried to attack him.
I remember that. I remember that one now. You're right.
It was really neat. But so I noticed in here, Patrick, that you added some. I think it was you that added some notes about changes from previous editions, and I've heard this before that shifters weren't always in the form that they are now. How have they changed in the past?
The biggest difference when we moved from 4th into 5th, and I've never figured out why this is. Jason and I have talked about it, but they used to be vulnerable. They used to have regeneration. They used to be vulnerable and allergic to silver. They had some other weaknesses, and that was not when they did the shifter rules. and run faster. That wasn't there. That was one of the things that we tried to put back in errata. And, I still don't know Jason's reasoning for this.
I mean, I guess maybe it could be. So obviously when you have shapeshifters that are allergic to, have an allergy to silver and all that, that's very evocative of werewolves, right? So maybe he was trying to get away from that strong connection to werewolves and just trying to make it more generic. I don't know.
It's a possibility, but they had it, they had it for 25 years up to that point.
Was there some other? Go ahead, Ken.
In third edition,
from first edition onward.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think in third edition they definitely had the allergies. I didn't know if it went all the way back to fourth. I know they had regeneration in third as well.
And I've heard people talk about this before.
Yeah,
Is it like was there some other balance mechanic that was put in its place? Because it seems to me like having a silver allergy might, even though it's not, I don't know, it might be, thought of as like a balancing thing. Perhaps it was a weakness that they had. I don't know. I guess I'm racking my brain about like why would that decision have been made? Maybe it was for balance reasons.
I know in third edition it was interesting because there actually was one very specific one that's from Africa that is a leopard shifter that's actually have allergies to gold instead of silver. But I definitely remember, and I don't know if they were different in fourth. In third edition, they were more varieties of shifters. Like foxes were better at like illusion and manipulation spells, and then like bears and I think tigers didn't really use magic at all.
That's interesting.
Or was less common anyway.
There were some differences there. I was never one of fourth edition's biggest fans. It got terribly generic in a lot of places for me.
Sure, yeah.
And that was one of the things with shifters, for instance. They all looked, with the exception of specific stats, like this one's a bear and this one's a tiger, and they all do the same thing. It was like magic in fourth edition was very, very generic. So it.
Okay. Do you think that's because they were player characters? Because in the older editions, I think they were just NPCs, right?
Possibly. I mean, there were shifter PC rules in at least as far back as third.
Okay.
And third edition companion, I think the second edition companion had shifter rules. They were ridiculously overpowered because regeneration in regeneration in second and third is like, boom, end of the round. Congratulations, you have all your damage back.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't just it was just X number of boxes. Like, congratulations, your entire physical damage track is now clear.
The regeneration thing definitely seems a little nuts, but
I did my best.
Yeah,
I've been trying since we started fifth edition to get regeneration to work a little better, and I still don't know that I've done anything positive on that front.
Yeah, I
think the regeneration's a lot more reasonable now, though. I mean, it seems like it still has obviously if you shoot somebody with a bullet, it doesn't solve a lot, or it's powerful still. But if you use magic or other such things or an allergy, it seems like it's easy enough to negate.
Well, I remember I played my character became a vampire in third edition, I think, and that was.
I'm sorry.
That was maybe it was second edition. I don't know. Whichever edition it was the regeneration there was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember which one, but
yeah, I like the old rules. They even used to have a little bit more specifics. Like if you were a seal, you would have like webbed fingers, right? And if you were some type of cat shifter, you'd definitely have like the cat eyes or reflective eyes.
Yeah, there are different things that gave you away in your metahuman form.
And they still have that in this. They have that in this version. They talk about how.
Yeah, it doesn't really lay them out like what each one might have. It just kind of makes notes that like, oh, you might have hairy palms or something like that, if I recall.
Let me see. I think it lays it out. Let me see. Was it page?
I think those rules start on like 100.
Yeah, page 100. It does say enlarged like canine. Enlarged canines, extensive body hair, and a resemblance to their breed are the usual markers of a shapeshifter of Canis familiaris. And it goes through each one and does actually give you a description of what they're like, what the visual markers would be. So
nice. Okay. All right.
So so if you're paying attention, you can spot them. No. I wasn't. I was saying in character. Although yes, maybe you should do a closer reading, Cassie. No, I was saying like in character. If your character's paying attention, they can spot a shapeshifter because they have these defining characteristics. Like an equine, which would be a horse shapeshifter, has a hairline that extends down between their shoulders and a long, narrow face and stuff like that.
And a bovine has a flat.
Yeah, I want to be a cow shapeshifter.
Well, it is an option. I've seen a couple of interesting write-ups with bovine shifters.
Yeah, do you have to be like a troll? I feel like you have to be something big, right?
Oh, wouldn't it be great if we found out that Bull the Orc Decker was really a bull shapeshifting orc Decker?
He has cyberware, and the regeneration would push it out.
That would not work out so well for the best orc Decker.
Plot twist. So here's a fun question, real fast. No, never mind. I'll save this one for when we before we close the episode. So if you're playing a shapeshifter, let's say you want to play a shapeshifter, what are the types of things that you would say people should keep in mind for like role-playing purposes? How would you play your character? Where are they from? What kinds of things? How would they approach the world? Stuff like that.
Remember that they're an animal first. If you're playing a feline shifter, watch your cat around the house. You know, seriously. You know, it's like, a feline shifter, if they're, one of the smaller breeds, they might, just poke things. One
That's true. Like
cats, a jaguar, something like that.
I like that idea. If you're playing a feline shifter, then when you're at the meeting with the Johnson, if you get a little bored, then you start like knocking salt shakers off the table, and like.
Cats are easily bored.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen videos of jaguars and lions doing the same basic thing. Larger scale, they I would really love to see how a mountain lion reacts to the mysterious red dot, but. Those could be some fun things for GMs to play with when a shapeshifter like glitches an etiquette or social role or something like that. Are there primate shapeshifters?
Assume so.
I mean, it does say in the rules here, it gives a list of them, and those aren't in there, but it does say...
They're not, but it does say essentially like any species could have them. It even does some mention, I think in Market Panic, it mentions orca, like shapeshifters and stuff.
I think
dolphins?
I think we got a couple of aquatic possibilities. I don't see how they'd be really useful as a player character.
Like an octopus shapeshifter.
I do like that visual somebody tried Armada one, but like you got like a sniper with a laser sight. He just like starts moving it around. The shapeshifter starts losing. There's a really good account in 4th edition in Running Wild where I assume it's a Jack Pointer or somebody who's writing anyway, who goes and spends like a week or two with a pack of a pack of wolves whose leader is a shapeshifter, and there's another shapeshifter there, and they have kids. And so he talks about the odd behaviors they do. Like when he first meets them, they all come up and start sniffing him, right? even the one that's in human form, you know?
Right, right.
Like, he's like, he has to have
You know,
this awkward conversation with one of them. It's like, you need to stop doing that.
But that is the biggest thing I would suggest as far as role playing is remember, I don't care how long they've been living in the streets of Seattle. They're wolves, or
Sure.
they're whatever they are, and do what you can to try to think like that. Their motivation is not necessarily going to be, I mean, almost certainly won't be, oh look, we're going to pay you a big, nice, shiny pile of new yen. It's like, are you going to give me a big, nice, shiny pile of meat that I can drag home to my cubs?
Yeah, no, and they're always going to
start
order the
bargaining and
really rare steak from the restaurant.
I'm just thinking of a penguin shifter in like winter. It'd be just like jumps and slides.
Can't resist going belly first down the snow hill.
Right.
Some of the other things, actually, in the book, it does mention, like maybe your character is not, like so that dark alley that you walked by. Everybody else is kind of apprehensive and nervous about going down it, and maybe you're pantherine or canine shapeshifter isn't as apprehensive as everybody else. It's a kind of a place that they might have a lot of feel very comfortable in its dark shadows. So
Yeah. And I definitely, for all that they would stand out because they have like cat eyes or different characteristics, that's not necessarily going to give you away in the world, the sixth world, right? There's plenty of transhuman people who are got tails and ears and whatever other oddities, right?
Right. Now, one thing to remember is that it's not like the movies or some movies. When you shift, your clothes don't shift with you. So that's just something to think about. It could be good.
Well,
it could go either way, because if you're a bovine shifter, then you're gonna hulk out in your clothes.
Well, and that's another thing. You're going to have these metahuman forms. 34 seconds ago, I was a cat. You're expecting me to put that on? What the hell is that?
Right.
What are these pants? This is getting in my way.
Right. Now,
how do you fight in this?
Lucky for the shifters, though, there is critter armor and Howling Shadows pick up some.
There is, yeah.
Change forms.
They make a point to say that any critter armor can be worn by, well, not any. It has to be for your breed species, right? But shapeshifters in their animal form can, of course, wear critter armor. So there's a plus.
Once you find somebody to put it on you.
Yeah.
You're not putting it on in your metahuman form. I'll tell you that for nothing, because it.
No.
Gotta use some magic fingers.
Yeah. The making a shapeshifter is I was looking at it, and it's a little bit. It's no simple task. There's a lot of bookkeeping that you have to keep track of if you're doing it on paper. If you want to make a shapeshifter,
you'll need to talk to Scott about that.
Yeah, if you want to make a shapeshifter, make sure it's in run. All of the shapeshifter rules and everything were brought back in Run Faster. So that's the book you're going to want to get. On page 102 of Run Faster is all about creating shapeshifters. Yeah. And you actually, an interesting thing, again, to go in line with the idea that these are animals first. When you're creating a shapeshifter, you first create the animal, and you stat up the animal form. Like if you're doing a leonine or a lion or something like that shapeshifter, you'll make the lion first, and you'll stat it up. You'll do the attributes for that, and then whatever attributes you've added to the lion to make it its stats in lion form, those additions to each of those stats that's what gets added into the metahuman form. You choose the metahuman form afterwards. So I like that the rules, they've thought about that, like really, again, remember I said earlier, I love it when I think about rules as informing kind of helping the setting and putting players in the mindset that aid.
Scott Schlitz.
Yeah. Well, he did a great job. We just had him on the last episode.
No. Scott's a madman.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best possible way. But he's madman. He wrote the shifter stuff, and I think give him the enormity of the task. I think he did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah. There are a lot of benefits to being a shapeshifter. You get a lot of heightened senses and stuff like that, depending on the animal that you're taking. But it's actually it's balanced really well in the expense that it costs, because every single quality that you get, you end up having to pay for that in character creation. You have to pay karma for that. You even have to pay karma for the metahuman form that you take. And even being a human costs karma. It costs 5 karma to choose that's the cheapest one, right? But if you wanted to be like a bovine that shapeshifts into a troll, that costs 20. Just being able to take the troll human form, or the troll metahuman form, costs 20 karma in and of itself. So.
Well, I don't know if it's every shapeshifter, but some definitely start out with uneducated, right? So you can't read and stuff if you.
They all do.
They all do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're probably gonna want to buy that off at Caragen.
Yeah, and again, the rules state that all of the positive and negative qualities that you get are given. You pay the karma for those, even though it comes packaged with the character. So that's fun. It's a challenge. It's a mathematical challenge. So if you got Hero Lab, because I plugged it into Hero Lab to check out how making a shapeshifter works, and it makes it lots easier.
Hero Lab makes all sorts of things easier. That's our go-to when we're having to do stat blocks in a product. I don't know any of the writers that don't have Hero Lab, because it's insane not to.
Yeah, it's such a good resource. What are we missing? What are we missing about shapeshifters?
Man,
it's a.
They're awesome.
I think all the things that were in my notes.
We didn't talk about them being agents of dis and stuff like that. Another note is even that the Nan, I think, definitely considers them citizens, or they can become citizens in the Nan.
So that's a good point.
And they will actually recruit them into their military.
Oh, nice.
So the shifters can be part of the Sioux Wildcats. That's definitely part of the story in the 4th edition book.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. They also talked about in the Yakut section of one of the books that I read, I think it was Howling Shadows talks about that those the Yakut forces that were shapeshifters during that whole thing, they were all like the foot soldiers were all wolf shapeshifters, and stuff. So, as you mentioned, the sins, it is important, I guess, for people who might be thinking of making shapeshifters and their backgrounds and everything. The nations that do recognize and issue sins to shapeshifters are the Nan, Native American nations, Amazonia, Azania, which I didn't even know about until I read this, and then Azatlan also. All of those, all the Az's and M's. They all.
Azania's I can't remember. I think Azania's the elven nation in Africa.
It's definitely in Africa. I don't remember exactly where it is, but.
And then, of course, Evo will as well, as long as you promise not to eat other Evo citizens. But it's super important if you're making one, right? Because you can't get a UCAS citizen. Well, okay, I take it back. You can get a UCAS sin, or if someone figures out you're a shapeshifter, the jig is up, right? So it's really great to grab a sin from one of those places, because even then, if you're in the UCAS territory, you're like, I'm a citizen of Evo, and they say I'm a person, which may not save you in some cases, but at least you sound more legit than if you're running around with an obvious fake.
With a fake UCAS sin in Cincinnati going, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eat him, but I'm really a person.
Yeah,
Trolling Stones before we get too far from it, Trolling Stones does say Azania Confederation is formerly South Africa, and it's not Elven, it's just a bunch of nations. So.
Oh, good to know.
Somebody who knows. That wasn't me, so.
They definitely mentioned the Shapeshifter Nation in The Complete Trog, but it's meant more as like a, hey, we're not the weirdest things here, right? Like,
Right.
You can be an orc or a troll there.
Right.
And it's okay, because your cat might stand up and start talking to you.
Right. So before we kind of put a bow on and finish wrapping up this topic, I want to hear from you guys. If you're a shapeshifter, what kind of animal would you want to be? Cassie, you first.
A hyena?
A hyena shifter? You'll be laughing all the time.
Yeah, I will be laughing all the time.
That would
Yes,
it would.
I don't know why. That was the first thing. I didn't prepare for this question. What else could it be? I don't know.
Tricked you.
Mischievous. Be a raccoon. Just get into all the things. Steal stuff all the time. Have the best palming, and then just look at people like, wasn't me. Like.
And when you walk through back alleys, you won't be able to resist jumping into the dumpster.
Yeah, like, ooh, there's good stuff in here. Yeah, be an raccoon shifter. That's what I want. Done.
Yeah. What about you, Patrick?
Oh God, I didn't prepare for this one either. I like the idea of being a mountain lion, just kind of camping out on someone's porch. Found this cat. Can somebody help me find his owner? There's no collar. He's a little surly.
Yeah. Deep Resonance says a raccoon or a platypus. Platypus shifter. That'd be good.
Oh yeah.
Do you get to keep the
Only if I can wear-
poison
only if I
barb
can-
on
only
your
if I get
heel
a-
when you're in human or metahuman form? That'd be awesome.
Do I get to keep the fedora when I turn back into a platypus?
Absolutely. A fedora wearing, was wearing fedora.
I feel like
That would be-
so I feel like if I'm to choose mine, I feel like you gotta go with flight, right? So
Beautiful.
yeah, I'd have to be like a falcon or an eagle or something.
All right. What have you considered dolphin? Because I think dolphin would be fun. You just like, that's your characteristic. That weird laugh the dolphin.
You laugh really weird.
That's how you laugh.
Oh man, it would be really annoying to go to the movies with a dolphin shifter.
Like, we go see horror? No, I don't want to see the comedy. I absolutely don't want to see
Oh man, you're taking your dolphin shifter friend and you're just like face palming the whole time. Oh god, why did I bring you here?
moisture.
What was I thinking?
Dry out. You have to spritz yourself all the time.
He's like got his bottle of water that he got from the concession stand, just throwing it.
Lots and lots of moisturizer.
Yeah, moisture issues for sure. Well, that's shapeshifters are really fun to talk about. It turns out. So.
I was worried about how this conversation was gonna go down. So I'm glad it worked out.
Oh, you mentioned the errata plan. Is that still in the process? Getting regeneration of Quicksilver and Silver added back in, or did that?
I keep throwing it at Jason. I keep throwing the and so far it hasn't stuck, but I keep throwing it at him.
I know some people just do take all the stuff that you throw out there and we implement it as house rules. So keep throwing it out there. We're paying attention, whether or not it becomes official.
Absolutely.
It's still there. I still want. I'm still throwing it in the general direction of Chicago, and eventually, I'm hoping that I'm more stubborn than he is.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Just keep wearing him down. Just keep wearing him down. Here we go. Here's this. Let's turn that down here like this. All right, that music means we have come to the end of the episode. Guys, if you're listening live, stick around because after every episode, we have an after party where we get to chill out, hang out, and you can ask us all sorts of questions. I know I've collected at least one from Eric DeMage, so if you're thinking about questions that you might have, go ahead and get them queued up and throw them in the chat. Cassie will grab them and we'll try to answer them. The Patrick Goodman here is, as I mentioned, the head of the errata team that is always hard at work. So I'm not saying that you should ask him about the errata stuff, but maybe stick around for a little while, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Shapeshifters. That was fun. Patrick, I want to jump right into it because I know you are involved in more than just Shadowrun errata and Shadowrun rules writing. I want to give you the chance to plug all the things that you are part of as much as you want to. So have at it. Let people know all the cool stuff you do.
Not only am I writing for Shadowrun and doing, I'm easily distracted by this music. I also write for the new Star Trek Adventures playing game.
Yeah, I see you posting about that on Facebook all the time. So.
Did you really?
Yeah, indeed.
I'm writing the character sheet for Roll20 for it. I've been reading all about it. That's awesome.
I even got my copy finally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Star Trek
I've been reading
Adventures.
that for months.
I've been Trek longer than I've been anything, and I finally 3 or 4 different role-playing games later got a chance to start writing for it. So that's been cool. Okay. One adventure out there that's going to be that we used in the play test. It's going to be re-released sometime because I'm trying to get all the there's play test, so some of the rules aren't quite right.
Yeah.
Things change, but we're trying to get a drift out there. I'm working on another one right now. They changed their minds. We're finally doing some official characters from the shows, getting them written up. I've written up several from the original Star Trek. I'm really proud of that.
That's cool. That's really exciting. I know that you've been excited about that because I follow your posts about it on Facebook. But you're also, from what I understand, you have a hand in the upcoming book that Shadowrun book that everybody's excited about, Better Than Bad. Is that right?
I've got. I'm gonna have some fiction in that one. I'm not actually working on any of the rules in that, but I'm working on a little story for that one. Take up characters from my one of my anthology stories and show what else they do on their off time.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. We've got another. We got an ebook that's related to Better Than Bad. It's called Hooders for Hire. I've got some stuff in that.
Cool.
Ooh.
That sounds really interesting.
So that one's Opti's brainchild.
Yes, Opti's super excited about it, but so are many of us as well. I'm really looking forward to that. What's going on, Cassie, with you? Anything you got that you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. Mondays we're playing Storm King's D&D, and then we just started Curse of Strahd. We'll be on Wednesdays. That's 2 things we got going on regularly. We play Shadowrun here and there, but
yeah.
I don't have a schedule for that, so you just have to check out the channel whenever that's
over there on the Emerald Grid Twitch channel,
on
right?
The Emerald Grid Twitch channel.
Twitch.tv/Emerald Grid. Yeah, so
yes.
Check that out, everybody. And I guess I will one more time before they actually have their finale episode. I've been plugging the past couple episodes. Join the Anarchy's finale that they're doing. They had a 2-part finale that they're working towards to end this first gigantic story arc they've been working on for over a year. And the second part, the final part, the finale is coming up on November 27th. So you guys are going to want to watch that. It's going to be right there on the Shadowcasters Network Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Shadowcasters Network. Go over there, watch that. If you're not familiar with Shadowrun Anarchy, it's just fun, wacky, improvised, actual play stuff. It's told on the fly with audience participation. It's really fun. You go in there and you help them make decisions, and you make suggestions in the chat, and they will take those suggestions, and if one of your suggestions is used, then your name gets entered into a drawing for some a gift certificate to Drive-Thru RPG. And so yeah, you should head on over to there And he does that every episode. Shadowrun Anarchy. Help him get out with a bang by tuning in on Monday, November 27th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Shadowcasters Network Twitch channel. So do that. Also, for those Head Cases fans out there who normally watch us every other Thursday, this next one would have been on Thanksgiving. We're postponing it to Tuesday. Head Cases is really fun, and we have a ridiculously stupid amount of fun on that show, so you should watch that. All of the stuff that we do you can find on the stream schedule that we have posted on our website, shadowcasters.network/schedule. So just check that out. And yeah. From me and anybody else, you got any last minute stuff, you guys? Anything else that you want to mention?
Nope. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then
I'm good. I appreciate you inviting me.
Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
You have been a delight, and we've got more going for the after party. And you know what, podcast listeners, you might want to show up live so you can join in on after party. It's always really fun. If you want to contact us on the show, you can tweet at us at 6worldpodcast, the number 6worldpodcast, or email us at theshow@sixworldpodcast.com. Our website is sixworldpodcast.com. The outro music you're about to hear is by Johnny Nuclear and the Meltdowns, and our logo artwork is by David McDermott. You can find him at sixworlddesigns.tumblr.com. From me, Cassie, and our wonderful guest, Patrick Goodman, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
When the days have gone dark and the sky's turning gray, everybody in the world, they're just staying enslaved. The technology's machines, we just feast for the screen. Lost in reality, can't find peace in